everyone, welcome back and thank you so much for clicking to watch this video. Well, today is Sunday and Sunday is family day, but family sometimes is not always gold. Sometimes family betrays, like family will betray you, family will kill you, family will murder you. So we're going to be profiling family betrayals on Sundays. Okay, so today we're going to be starting with the Lin family, and this is a very sad one. Well, all of those stories I'm going to be profiling will be very sad, let me warn you right now. But this one just hit me like really bad, because as an immigrant myself, you know how you struggle sometimes for your family back home. You want to bring them here because you feel like they will make it, they'll have a better life here. You bring them here, you help them to integrate, you do everything for them, and then they turn around and just finish you and your entire family. It's pretty much what the Lin story is all about, and we're going to be diving into it pretty soon. For today's look, I'm going to be using this quad from ColourPop. It's a little hard to use quads like this because you don't have too many options, okay? But we're gonna see what we'll come up with this one. I haven't used it before, so I'm kind of excited. So let's do some makeup and talk about today's family betrayal. The Lin family was a young couple in Australia. I would say young because they were only in their 40s, okay? Min Lin was 45 and the wife Yon Lin was just 43 years old. Very young couple. They had immigrated from China. They both met in Sydney, Australia when they were students. They fell in love, got married, and ended up having 3 beautiful children. This couple was very hardworking, very loving parents. Their children, Henry, Terry, and Brenda. Okay, at the time of the incident, Henry was 12 years old, Terry was 9, and Brenda was just 15. The family was a very close-knit family. The kids loved each other. The youngest one adored his older sister. He would follow her around. The middle son, it is said that he was very jovial, very nice kid, friendly, would play, and he was into sports and he would play badminton. So the family was very close, both with the kids and his extended family. And with this love and this closeness, that's how Lin ended up bringing other family members to Australia. We know how it is, we immigrants, okay? We just want to bring everybody. If there's a way for us to bring everybody along, we will bring everybody. So they had his Lin's dad and mom had come to meet them in Australia. They had gotten a house for them like 30 minutes away from where they lived at. And his sister, Lin's sister, and her husband had also immigrated and met them in Australia. And this couple, they live just walking distance away from the Lin family. Min Lin, the father of the family, was very hardworking, such that he and his family owned a very lucrative business. They owned a news agency, and this news agency, that's where they would sell newspapers and provisions, and it was very popular in the community. Everybody knew that store. They would come there every day, and they noticed it was always open. This is a store that will never close. Like, they don't have Christmas, they don't have vacations, they don't have holidays, nothing. It's always open. So that's why when it didn't open for that one day when the incident happened, people were very alert. So this business was very lucrative. It is said that they made up to like $1 million every year from there. But this family, even though they were doing really well, they had all this money, but they were very down to earth, okay? You didn't see Lin going to buy, you didn't see Min going to buy a Porsche. So, oh, let me get my wife a Porsche because I'm making all this money. No, they were down to earth, and that's mainly the reason why the community loved them. Everybody loved the family. The kids were nice, respectful, down to earth, and everything. Min's sister was called Kathy. So every week they will meet at their parents' house, which was like a 30 minutes drive from where they lived at. So the day before the incident, on a Friday, because this incident happened on a Saturday, on Friday they had met at the parents' house as usual for dinner. So while they were there, Grandma had asked Henry, one of the sons, to sleep over. And he was like, no, Grandma, tomorrow is Saturday. I have to go and play badminton with Uncle Robert. Uncle Robert is Kathy's husband. They would do that every Saturday, right? So the little boy was like, no, Grandma, I need to go sleep at my parents' place because, tomorrow I have a game and me and my uncle were going out to play. So that's how this little boy went back home to his parents, not knowing what was awaiting. So sad. The next day, the neighbors realized that the shop wasn't open. Again, like I said, it was a Saturday. It was strange that they wouldn't open the store. So some of the people started calling Kathy, the sister. I'm not sure why they called Kathy. Maybe they had tried to call the owners because obviously they will have Min's number and the wife's number and Brenda's number or something, but they decided to call Kathy to let her know that the shop wasn't open for whatever reason. So Kathy and her husband decided to go over to see what was going on. And when they got there, first thing they noticed was that the door was open. The main door was open. And it was unusually quiet. It was like there was nobody home. So they decided to go upstairs to see what was going on. And they started to discover a gruesome scene. It was terrible. Like they discovered the kids, the two boys, and the sister. Oh, I forgot to mention, Yoon's younger sister also lives with them in the house. So she too was killed. They noticed that she too was dead in her room. The two boys were dead. Yoon was dead. Yoon is the mom. She too was gone. But they didn't see the father. Immediately they get into the house, Kathy's husband is like, don't look. It's like he already knew what was coming. So he wanted his wife not to look at the scene, like to close her eyes and not look at what they were about to witness. So Kathy is screaming. She calls the emergency operators, and the guy that picks up the phone, the operator that day, was just a mess. He was so mean. Like, this woman is frantic, okay? She's screaming. She's just seeing her entire extended family has been brutally finished, like they've been brutally murdered, and she's screaming, trying to explain what's going on. And the operator is so mean. He's like, stop screaming and tell me what's going on. Like, I'm like, dude, just calm down. Like, show some empathy. Like, this woman is going through it right now. Be calm. Like, he was like, stop screaming. Tell me, we're driving over there, but you need to tell me what's going on. Like, oh my God. So they finally get there, and before they end the call, they can hear her, Kathy, telling her husband in their language, please don't leave me here. I'm very scared. But guess what? The husband is like, no, I have to go. I gotta go. I'm going to pick up your parents because their son and his entire family has just been murdered, and I need to go pick them up. Like, that's more important right now. You're leaving your wife at the scene. What if the killer is still lurking around? What if the killer comes for your wife? You're just gonna leave her here to go pick up your in-laws? Couldn't you call an Uber for them or something? But anyway, he goes to pick them up and leaves the wife there. So the police comes and they meet this gruesome scene. And when they first show up, when Kathy and her husband first show up, they didn't find Min. So nobody knew where Min was. Okay. And at the end, when the police gets there, they're trying to look for him. Then Kathy all of a sudden is like, check the duvet, like remove the duvet and he might be under the covers or something. So at the time when they were there, they knew that it was just 4 bodies, right? At that time, they hadn't seen Min, because even the operator would ask him, have you seen your brother? Have you seen your brother? And she's like, no, I haven't seen him. So take note of that. When they first come in, it's just 4 bodies. They don't know where the 5th person is at the time. So the police is there. They start doing the investigation, and they ask Kathy where her husband is, and she's like, oh, he went to pick up my parents. So during the investigation, the police starts to notice little bits and pieces of information. Like they start to notice a crime scene. They're seeing that there is no sign of a break-in, right? So they feel like the murderer or the person, the killer, probably had the keys to the house, because there's no sign of a break-in. The other thing they noticed is that Brenda's door, they had 2 children and Brenda wasn't around. Okay, Brenda wasn't there during the murders. It was just the 2 sons, their auntie Irene, the mom, and the dad. Brenda wasn't there because she had gone for a school excursion. So they were out of the country. They were going to be out there for like a week. So they noticed that Brenda's door, it's like her room wasn't touched. Okay. They noticed on each of the other rooms, the doorknobs, there was blood on them, except Brenda's door. They didn't even go close to her door. They also noticed that her room wasn't touched. When they opened it, there was nothing in there. Nobody had gone in there. It wasn't touched. So they started thinking that, okay, first of all, there's no sign of entry. So this person probably had the key. Second of all, this person did not touch Brenda's door. So they knew that Brenda wasn't around. They knew that she was out of town and she wasn't in the house. So they were starting to think that, okay, this is probably going to be somebody that is close to the family. Also, the fact that nothing was stolen was an indication that this wasn't a break-in. This wasn't a home invasion or something like that, because nothing was stolen from the house. Everything looked in place. They had also noticed that even though there were like 24 different footprints, all the footprints were the same shoe size. So they concluded that it was just one perpetrator and it wasn't like a gang kind of thing. So Brenda, remember I told you that Brenda was away for an excursion? This girl decides to go on Facebook, like just to catch up, you know. So you just go on Facebook to see, okay, what's going on back home, what's going on with my friends and stuff like that. She gets on Facebook and she sees a post of her house. And she's like, what's going on? Why is my house in the news? And people start texting her and she's reading comments, so sorry for your family. And people are sending her text messages, apologizing and telling her they're sorry for her family that has been killed. She's like, God forbid, whose family? Like, she thought that maybe they were trying to play a sick joke on her or something. Like, back to sender. Like, nothing can happen to my family in Jesus' name. Like she didn't even believe it. Okay, so she tries to call some of her close friends, and they're like, yeah, sorry Brenda, your family was, everybody is gone. So at the camp where they were, they decided to put her in the first plane back home. It's terrible for you to learn about your family being killed on social media just like that, you know. So she heads home. Back home, the investigation has started. And of course, because it is Auntie Kathy and Uncle Robert that discovered the body, they had to take them in for a statement. They had to take them in for questioning. And Robert is there talking about how Lin and his family had helped him and his wife integrate when they first came to Australia. They had even helped them get a car because at the time his wife wasn't able to get a car, so they had helped them with the language. They couldn't speak English and all of that, so they have been very helpful, and he loved his brother and the family and blah 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 blah. So they asked them questions. They saw that, okay, these people, everything was good. There wasn't any questions they had for them. Okay, they cleared them, cleared him and his wife, sent them out. So Brenda, now as a minor, she had to either go live with her aunt and her uncle or go to foster care because, like I said, she was just 15 or 16 at the time. She was in high school. So her aunt and her uncle decided to take her in, and the uncle was even heard, they heard him saying right after the parents, that they heard him saying that let them adopt Brenda. So people begin to give him a side eye like, adopting Brenda already? Like, can you let the parents rest a little before you're thinking about adopting? So anyway, Brenda starts living with her aunt and her uncle. The uncle takes over. He's running the business now, the parents' business. Remember I told you he wasn't working, so it was easy for him to start going to the shop and start taking care of business there. And Brenda is living with them and going to school. During that time, the police is doing the investigation because this case had gone haywire. Like, it had gone so viral. People were looking for answers. Neighbors were questioning, like, what is going on? We need to know. Is there a murderer in our community? Is there a serial killer in our community? Are we safe? This person is out there. They can come for us. So give us some answers. We need to know what's going on. So the police is investigating. And during that time, the police somehow, I don't know how, but they put cameras inside this house because they're already starting to suspect Uncle Robert. Okay, so they're monitoring him. And remember the footprints? They had discovered the shoes of the footprints, like the shoes that they had used for the murder. And they noticed that it was some tennis shoes, some make, I don't remember what it was, but apparently Uncle Robert had the same type of shoes because during the surveillance, when they were watching the cameras, they had noticed that he took the box of that same make and model of shoes and he cut it up. They see him in the camera cutting up the box and flushing it in the toilet. Okay, so also during the surveillance, they also noticed him touching Brenda in an inappropriate way, and we're going to get to that in a minute. During the interview, Uncle Robert had mentioned that on the day of the murder, he described that the day before they had gone to the in-laws, they were there all night, and when he got back, he went straight to bed, and he woke up the next morning and went to clean his garage. So because he mentioned the garage, the police decided to go and search the garage. When they got in the garage searching, they discovered some blood in there. They took the sample, and when they tested the sample of what they found in the garage, it had DNA of 4 of the victims. 4 of 5. There were 5 victims. So that DNA had 4 of the victims. Okay. So if it was just one victim, okay, he would say, oh, well, we are family, you know. He came in here, cut himself, and that's what happened. But it was 4 of the family of the deceased that he had in that DNA. And they named that DNA stain number 91 as evidence. The police felt like they had enough evidence, they had enough against Uncle Robert. They decided to arrest him, charged him with the murder of the family. And of course, he denied everything, that he wasn't involved. He didn't know what was going on. And guess what? His wife supported him. Okay. Kathy was all behind her husband, like, nope, the police planned everything. The police hates her. Like, everybody is wrong. Nobody knows my husband better than me. There's no way he could have done this. And his alibi was that he was at home sleeping, and she confirmed that yes, he was at home sleeping. Girl, please, if you're deep asleep, okay, and this guy wakes up, and to think that this house was just walking distance, okay, I know it takes a long time. This was 5 people that he had to murder, so I don't think it took him less than an hour. But still, if this guy is out of the bed and gone for a couple of hours, it's very likely that you won't know. Okay, it's likely that you won't know. So stop supporting somebody that's been accused of killing your brother and his entire family. She stood by him. She was like, no, not my husband. So anyway, this guy is arrested. And as soon as he's arrested, they go to Brenda's school, and they pull her out of class, and they tell her what has been going on, that the uncle has been arrested for this. And it doesn't really say what happened after that, if she kept staying at the house, but I would think that they'll pull her out of that house immediately. So while he's in court, the trial begins. And first of all, the police think that Uncle Robert's motives is that he was jealous of his brother-in-law. Okay, they said he said that his in-laws, his parents-in-law, liked Min more than they liked him, because Min was successful. He had this good business going for him, and while he on the other side had nothing. He was doing well in China, but when he came, his business failed, he was jobless and all of that. So the police thought that, okay, he was jealous of his in-law, and that's why he did what he did. And when Brenda got a lawyer, she admitted to her lawyer that the uncle had been abusing her even before the murders. So when that was brought into the court during the trial, the judge decided to, they had a mistrial because of it, because that was new evidence that was just coming up. So they had a mistrial. So the case was thrown out. Later on, when the second trial started, the judge fell sick. The judge at the time fell sick. So again, they had to throw out the case. The third time they came for the case, jury couldn't come to an agreement. Like, they couldn't decide on the verdict. Okay, so it was a hung jury. So they decided to go in for another case. But during that time, while they were waiting for the next trial to start, the judge decided to grant Uncle Robert bail. It was right before Christmas, so the interview, you could see the wife being interviewed, like, what do you think, your husband is getting out on bail pending the next trial? And she was like, yes, thank God, this is a good Christmas present, I'm just happy. And the journalist asked her, what are you gonna tell him once you see him? And she's like, I'll tell him that I love him. Hi, Jesus. Like, this woman, a man that is accused of killing your brother and his entire family, and you're still standing behind him. Like, I don't even understand. When the final trial came along, the prosecutor presented their case saying that Uncle Robert wasn't only jealous of his brother-in-law, but he also had this sick obsession for his niece, Brenda, the teenager, because he was molesting her. And this is the guy who, as soon as the parents are dead, he insists that the family, that he and his wife should adopt Brenda. Why? So that she can now be under his roof and he'll be able to get to her whenever he wanted. Like, how sick is that? Okay, look at this little girl. And they also believed, and I also believe that this is what happened. Like, he knew that she wasn't going to be around. He wanted everybody else to be gone except her, because that was the person, that's who he wanted. Okay, he wanted her in a sick kind of way, but he did. In this final trial, they presented the case, his motives, what they believed were his motives. He was jealous of his brother-in-law, and he also had this sick obsession for his niece. So when they presented all of that, the judge found him guilty. He was found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. When he took over the when he took over the Lin family estate, right, he had to take over the business, and of course he's the man of the family now. There's no man that's standing in place of them. The sister, he and his wife kind of inherited everything, I guess, until Brenda was the age to take over. But he evicted his in-laws from their house. Can you imagine? The house that Min Lin had purchased for his parents. They used to live about 30 minutes away from the Min family. He evicted them. And I don't know what he did with the house, but they were forced to come and live with them, I guess, so that he can have control of them and everything. And the wife is sitting there watching. Those are her parents. Those are her parents, and he evicts them from the house. Like, who does that? Like, this woman, I don't know. And like I said in the intro, it's just hard to think that you would do this. I mean, we immigrants will understand what it takes for you to bring someone abroad. It takes a lot, like all the paperwork filing, and it costs a lot of money. And then you bring somebody here, they have to be financially dependent on you for a while until they can stand on their feet. You know, that's why before they would even, sometimes with some visas you need an attestation that you're able to take care of this person before they get on their feet, right? So you're doing all of that. Probably Robert and his wife, it is very likely that they may have even lived with them when they first came, you know, because when you first come, you need some accommodation. Okay, you not just go and get your own place like that. So they probably lived with this family, and the family took care of them, they housed them, the kids were there for them, and all of that. And maybe maybe that's when Robert started molesting this girl when they were living in the house, like the transition period. It doesn't say that, but I'm just thinking, you know, I just thought about that. Okay, when they first came to Australia, they needed accommodation. They needed to stay someplace before they got their own apartment, before they moved out to their own place. And during that time, they were probably living in the house with them, and maybe that's when he started assaulting this little girl. Maybe that's when he started this obsession with this little girl, like this pervert. So to think that you would do all of that for your family, and then they will end up just murdering you and your entire household, it's just sad. Now it's left to pick up the pieces of her life. You know, she's still dealing with it for a very long time, because at the time when it happened, she was a minor, so they had to block her identity. But when it finally came out, when her identity was finally released, she sat down for the first time to have an interview about the entire thing, like you being the sole survivor for something like this. It sure can be easy for her. So she talked about how she remembers the last time she saw her dad, when her dad accompanied her to, was it the airport? Yeah, when they were going for their trip. So the dad accompanied her, and she saw the other kids hugging their parents and doing, oh, I miss you things, you know, I'm gonna miss you, I love you, and stuff like that. And she was just standing there awkwardly, and she won't hug her dad. And she was like, okay, bye. It's not like they were fighting or she was mad or anything, but it's typical teenage. I have a teenager, she would do that. Like, you want to hug her in front of her friends, and she'll be like, ew, mom, please don't embarrass me. And you're always embarrassing them no matter what you do. So it was pretty much like that. Like, she didn't want to be embarrassed, and she was just standing there awkwardly, and she was, okay, bye, I'll see you next week, you know, and she left. So during the interview, her biggest regret was that she should have told, she should have embraced her dad. She should have given him a hug. She should have told him, I love you. She should have told him, I'm gonna miss you. You know, most times we say that always tell the people you love that you love them, because you never know if that's going to be the last time you ever see them. You never know what the next minute holds. Okay, you leave in the morning, you're like, oh, I'm just going to school, I'll be back in 8 hours, and you never come back. You never know. So for her, that's her biggest regret. But she's happy and grateful to the community that stood for her. Like, when it all happened, there were like funds, people were contributing, GoFundMe and stuff for her education, for her future and stuff like that, knowing that she's gonna be the only one now left in her entire family. So she was thankful for the community that came out for her. That's it for today's Sunday Family Betrayal, you guys. Thank you so much for watching to the end. If you're still here, I'm pretty sure you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comment section what you think. You know, as I get older, I learned this very important lesson: to love all but trust none. Okay, because when I saw this story, I was just, how can you do something like this? And for me, the biggest betrayal is not even Robert, but his wife. Like, your own sister. How would your own sister choose to believe her husband over everybody else, and she would rather fall out with her family than to believe that her husband was able to do this? I mean, there's no way that she wouldn't know. Like, you should see some signs. You can know the kind of person your husband is. I don't know. I feel like she knew something. That's just my belief. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think about it. Okay, so please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed our content for today. Please remember to subscribe if you have not already. Show some love. Take care of yourselves and each other. And I'll see you in my next one. Bye.